Leavenworth City Commission meeting. Please turn off or silence all cell phones during the meeting. Meetings are televised on Channel 2 at 6 p.m. and at midnight and are always available for your viewing pleasure on YouTube. At this time, we'll call the meeting to order and begin with Pledge Allegiance and then silent meditation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll begin with old business. We just need to start with the meeting minutes from May 13, 2005, regular meeting. Just need a motion to approve.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
All right. It's been a motion's made in a second. I'll begin voting with Commissioner Hingela.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
All right, motion passes. New business. Are there any public comment tonight?
There
Is okay. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. In the interest of time, we ask that groups wishing to speak limit their public comment to one presenter. This is an opportunity for the City Commission to hear the thoughts of the public prior to conducting official city business. The mayor, city commissioners, and the city staff have been asked not to respond to those giving comment, and action may not be taken by the commission on public comment items. The mayor may direct the staff to follow up with specific individuals after the meeting. When speaking, please state your name and your address. A sign-up sheet was provided, and we'll begin with who's first, Sarah?
We have Mike Trapp.
Mike Trapp. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, thanks, Mayor Pittman. I am Mike Trapp. I reside at 707 South Broadway here in Leavenworth. I want to thank you all, as always, for your service. City service is one of the great ways to give back to a community, and it can often be a thankless job, especially when there's issues of public controversy. So I appreciate steady hands at the wheel and your willingness to put yourselves out there and serve your community.
Thank you.
Also, I also want to thank you for assertively defending your land use rights by taking both first to federal court and then refiling in state court to force CoreCivic to get a special use permit to operate. I was on the city council in Columbia, Missouri, and land use decisions are the fundamental core government response. You function as the board of the directors for the city, you pass the laws, but the biggest thing that you do is deal with zoning and platting issues, and land use is the most fundamental and core function of government, and to see that challenged is unfortunate, and so I appreciate you taking those actions, although it's not easy or inexpensive. I read the federal suit. I have not read the state suit, but it was a persuasive case, and I wish that it had been decided upon the facts, because you make a strong presentation about why CoreCivic has a long history of acting under bad faith and not being a good partner for the community, and why we would want to have a permitting process where we would want to scrutinize their policies and procedures and how they plan to operate the use of their land in a way that is going to comport with the well-being and safety of our community. There's nothing more fundamental than to address those core issues, and so I applaud you for that. I don't need to restate the case that you make so eloquently in the lawsuit that your staff put forward, but I am, I was the former executive director for the local sexual assault provider in town, and so I have some level of expertise. As a community leader, I took the tour of CoreCivic, and I noticed that they had the signage that PREA requires, the Prison Rape Elimination Act, but it doesn't include a sexual assault provider as the law requires. As they're under their legal claim that they're operating that facility, currently they're not operating it. Just as another small example that was not in the lawsuit of why we need the permitting process to ensure that all of the both facility staff and facility residents and the community are going to be protected from this corporation. Thank you, and I appreciate your attention to this issue.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Jake Sewer.
Hi, Jake.
Hello, thank you guys for taking the time to listen to these. My name is Jake Sire. I'm from Kansas City, and I work as a public high school teacher in the area. Also want to show gratitude towards the City Commission for refiling the lawsuit against CoreCivic. We encourage you to continue resisting the movement for deportations, which only justifies itself through illogical stigmas Americans have been placing on Latino immigrants for centuries. These nonsensical judgments are what policies like this possible ICE detention facility rely on. The early 20th century resembles our current moment. Politicians began to shift their rhetoric from recruiting Latino migrants for labor to blaming them for society's woes. Congressman John Box was one of the many leaders who convinced the public that mass deportations were the solution to their economic struggles. He said, quote, "Practically all Mexicans that come to the U.S. are illiterate, ignorant, not good material for American citizenship, spreading illness, and more prone to crime than other immigrants." We'd be fools not to draw comparisons to our current moment with the president sitting in this administration. This simplistic thinking places blame for all of Americans' problems on immigrants. Inflation was not the result of a global pandemic, which the entire world felt, but because of the influx of immigrants. Crime increases, despite the lack of evidence, is blamed on immigrant crime. And most absurdly, even the destruction from Hurricane Helene was spun into an immigration issue. The pattern is clear. Scapegoating immigrants is a political tool which has won public opinion in America before and persists even more dramatically and bluntly now. I want the City Commission to consider our moment in American history and know that we all support you refiling the lawsuit against CoreCivic and continuing the fight against this anti-immigrant movement. Please keep demonstrating the power of the people you represent, and thank you again for taking action and taking the time to listen.
Thank you for coming.
Next up is William Rogers.
Hello, Mr. Rogers.
William Rogers, 73rd Leavenworth Road. Thank you again, Commissioners and Mayor, and I'm sorry for being here. I told you I wasn't coming back, and here I am. But tonight I want to speak about misinformation. There seems to be a lot of misinformation on social media. Of course, we always get it. But the one thing is, me as a citizen, I kind of expect not to get misinformation from my elected officials. And right now there's a Kansas state elected official that seems to be putting out a lot of misinformation on CoreCivic. Here recently posted that there'll be $1 million in new tax revenue to lower property tax for homeowners. I think if that ain't, it's definitely misleading, if not totally just incorrect. There's not going to be that much. Then he said $4 million in raises for a corrections officer at Lansing. As a state official, I think he should be ashamed of himself that they're holding that money to give raises to well-deserved employees at the state and see what CoreCivic does. That's a shame on him, and that's also a shame on him for what's he done to lower the tax money at the state level. Second, I want to say this. There's 4 of you on this commission that should just be pissed that he attacked the mayor. This was a 5-person vote. Each one of you voted the same. And for him to single her out says that it's nothing more than a political game for him. He's used social media in the past to attack a little grade school girl that simply artwork on a flag that she painted. He also used it to attack women on there, said they stole the vote. So I would like to see the city at least put out an informational deal on how this started with they originally filed for an SUP and how this just kind of took place to let the citizens know from a group of well-educated people, elected officials like yourself. Instead of, I call him Mr. Pride now. I'm not going to say his name, but then I want to say that on a different note, June is Pride Month, and I'd ask that this commission recognize that moving forward and celebrate the culture and community of the LGBT community. You know, it was 1967 when interracial marriage was legalized. And when you think back, that's during my time. And I think about that, and that means my best friend couldn't be married to his wife. So moving forward, I would hope that we celebrate them and recognize them here in Leavenworth and let them know that they're welcome here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Rick Hammett.
Hi, Rick.
I'm Rick. I live at 202 Fawn Valley. I don't have a big speech. Just wanted to come and say thank you to each of you guys for filing in federal court and then again in state court. There's this thing that happens every once in a while where everyone's life gets a lot worse really quickly. And when that happens, we all sort of get scared. And solving those problems is really, really difficult to do. Almost impossible. But it's really, really easy to just pick a group of people and blame it on them. And that's just where we are right now. It's what we're doing as a society. It's way too late to deny that. And Core Civic's not doing it, but they are willing to profit from it. And that's their prerogative. It's doubtful that we'll actually get a Nuremberg, so they're probably going to get away with it. But each and every one of us has both a right and a duty to dissent. And the only reason that I'm able to exercise that right is because of the 5 of you standing up and doing it first. So, thank you.
And last, we have Mackenzie Foster.
Hi, Mackenzie.
My name is Mackenzie Foster, and I live in Kansas City. I'm here tonight to thank the City Commission for filing its federal suit against Core Civic, then having beaten back the specter of federal removal, filing again in state court. By trying to violate the people of Leavenworth's rights so that they can further violate the rights of immigrants, the Corrections Corporations of America just keep showing us who they are, and we're happy you've decided to believe, showing us who they are, and we're happy you decided to believe them. Thank you for fighting for Americans everywhere. Please keep fighting.
And that was it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's begin with general items, mayor's appointments. I'm going to go ahead, if you guys are comfortable, separating these out so no one gets, I don't want anyone to get denied just because one person. Is everybody comfortable with that?
Yep.
Okay. All right, I'll move to appoint to the Board of Zoning Appeals Ted Davis to an unexpired term ending May 1st, 2027.
Second.
All right, begin voting with Griff.
Hi.
Aye.
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 All right, reappoint, I make a motion to reappoint to the Electrical Board of Appeals Tyler, is it Haas, to a term ending May 1st, 2030.
Second.
All right. I'll begin voting with Commissioner Hingla.
Aye.
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 Hi.
All right. Next, I'll make a motion to appoint to the Mechanical Board of Appeals Judy Price to a term ending May 1st, 2030.
Second.
All right, begin voting with Commissioner Merton.
Hi.
Aye.
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 All right, and last one, I'll make a motion to reappoint to the Plumbing Board of Appeals Terry Scarf to a term ending May 1st, 2030.
Second.
All right, begin voting with Commissioner Hingla.
Aye.
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 Hi.
All right, thank you. All right, next up is consider cereal malt beverage license for 818 Nail Salon, which is located at 619 South 4th.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, before you this evening is a request to approve a cereal malt beverage license for 818 Nail Salon located at 619 4th Street. The owner has submitted the application for an on-premise consumption cereal malt beverage license for the location in town so that patrons can purchase beverages while receiving services at the nail salon. The police department has reviewed and approved the application, so tonight we are here seeking approval to issue a 2025 on-premise cereal malt beverage license. Here tonight, if you have any questions, is also the owner of the business.
Sounds very unique.
Does the commission have any questions?
No.
Not really.
Where's he?
Have to go there.
There you go. Beer-
Who's the owner?
Beer nails.
Beer and nails.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion then.
I move it.
to bring the big city bike to.
Okay, come up.
Oh, come up to the mic, please.
Just on the microphone.
Hi there, welcome.
Hello, my name is Hui Tran. I've been into the business nail salon for 25 years, and I want to bring the big bike to the little town like this, you know. And I want to bring the relaxing to all the clients that we have.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we want to, sell them like, the beer, a can, margarita while they getting the feet done.
There you go.
Big.
Yeah,
And,
I love that.
Yeah. So we used to have a big salon in Black City,
Okay.
and all the people from here came over to the salon, and we served them with wine and beer, while they get the service done.
To relax,
So,
All
yeah.
right.
to get their nails done, okay,
Bring him back.
So we try to bring it here,
awesome.
yeah. So the people don't have to drive like 25 minutes, 15 minutes to Black City or out at the Legend to get the nail done. Instead, they concentrate here. Like, if people come to us, we create more job for the people around the town.
Right?
Yes,
So you're gonna be promoting Leavenworth in Platte City, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Tell people to come over here.
When do you expect to be open?
They're open, aren't they?
We already opened.
Yeah, they're
Open
open.
now.
They just want to serve beer and wine.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just beer.
Just beer.
Zero
Just
malt
beer.
beverages, just beer.
Sir,
Just beer.
Madam
Beer
Mayor,
and they like little can of the margarita,
Uh-oh.
that fast.
Well, it's malt.
As long as it meets the ABV requirement, we will verify that, but yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the issuance of a 2025 on-premises consumption cereal malt beverage license for 818 Nails Salon located at 619 4th Street.
Second.
All right, we'll begin voting with Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
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 All right, motion's passes 5-0. All right, Nancy will be there.
Just for the nails.
Next week, so everybody come.
Everybody can, that's right. I love that. All right, acceptance of a land for public utilities for Phil's Corner. Hello, how are you?
Good evening, how are you guys?
Good.
Good, thank you.
Phil was just-
So tonight we have before you a final plat application for Phil's Corner. This is a one-lot application in the general business district. This is kind of a unique site because when it was annexed into the city, there was an agreement that this portion of the land would be zoned GBD, whereas the rest of the parcel is single-family. So the applicant now has gone through the process a few years later, after it was annexed in, to officially separate this into its own parcel. So that is the application. It did go to the Planning Commission and was approved unanimously. And then there were some utility dedications or utility easement dedications on the plat that we present to you for acceptance today. And we do have the plat for signature as well, if approved.
Does the commission have any questions?
No? No.
All right, I'll take a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move to accept the dedication of land for public utility as part of Phil's Corner final plat.
Second.
All right, we'll begin voting with Commissioner Hengler.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
I love that you call it Phil's Corner.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Sarah, do you wanna?
I'll take it.
That's right down the corner from
All
me.
right, next up, let's talk about bids, contracts, and agreements. First up is rescind the award for the elevator. Hello.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. Good to be here with you tonight. The issue before you is to consider rescinding the contract for modernization of the elevator at the Riverfront Community Center with TK Elevator Corporation and award the second low bid proposal from that to Otis Elevator. Bids were received and reviewed for the modernization of the elevator at Riverfront Community Center on March 19th. At the City Commission meeting on Tuesday, March 25th, after researching the company TK Elevator, staff recommended and city approved the proposal from TK Elevator for the modernization in the amount of $168,720. We did receive two proposals that night. Second one was from Otis Elevator in the amount of $190,700. Starting the following day, City Clerk Office reached out to TK Elevator, sending them all the bid documents, the contract that was signed by Madam Mayor that night, to begin the process of getting all the bonds and everything in place. Over the next several weeks, communication coming back from the company TK Elevator was lapse, to say the least, with phone calls from myself as well as Ms. Bodensteiner's office and emails trying to see where the documents were at, trying to get the documents. We would follow up quickly when we would finally hear from them, but literally 2 weeks would go by. Once we finally gave some hard deadlines, they did not meet those. Still to this day, with today, May 20, 27th. We still don't have a signed contract back from them as well as the maintenance agreement. This lack of communication is very concerning, especially when we're talking about a elevator in our widely used, facility. Having this level of communication and trying to get a modernization of that elevator done as quickly and expediently as possible is something that I am recommending against. So with that, as I mentioned, we also had a second bid proposal from Otis Elevator that evening in the amount of $190,700. That is not really out of line with what we had budgeted. We had originally had $198,000 and some change budgeted for this project. We had to take some of that and do an emergency repair last year to get it back up and running. So the amount is a little bit less. But with that, staff recommends the contract with TK Elevator Corporation for the modernization of the elevator at the Riverfront Community Center in the amount of $168,720 be rescinded. We also recommend the second low bid proposal from Otis Elevator in the amount of not to exceed $190,700. There is $183,789.20 remaining in the 2025 CIP for this project. That remaining balance of a little over $6,900 can be funded by the CIP reserves. This will require two motions, one motion for the rescinding of the contract, and then the second one for the award of the second low bid, should you choose to do so. With that, I'll entertain any questions.
Is that elevator originally an Otis elevator that's there now?
It's a Schindler.
Schindler, okay.
Yes.
I'm just curious about that.
And we know for sure the bid is still active?
Yes, I've contacted Otis, and they answered the phone. Had a really good conversation with them, and they honored that bid amount, sir.
Well, that's
Yes.
good. That's good.
Well, let's go ahead and do this in two motions then. I'll just need the first
Sure.
motion to.
Madam Mayor, I'd move to rescind the original bid from TK Elevator Corporation in the amount of $168,720 for the modernization of the elevator at the Riverfront Community Center for that bid.
Second.
All right. We begin voting with Commissioner Hengler.
Aye.
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 All right, well, then the second motion to,
I move to recommend the second low bid proposal from Otis Elevator in the amount not to exceed $190,700.
Second.
all right. Motion's made second. We'll begin voting with Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
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 All right.
Thank
you,
you.
Steve.
Thank you.
Okay, Stormwater Project, 6th Avenue and Spruce. Hello. How are you?
Good. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. The item this evening is to consider bids received and possible award of a construction contract with Lina Weaver Construction for the 6th Avenue and Spruce Stormwater Project. The corrugated metal storm water pipe connecting two inlets in the middle of 6th Avenue has rusted out and caused a sinkhole in the middle of the roadway. City staff did fill the hole with concrete as a temporary fix to protect drivers. The city contracted with BG Consultants to design a repair at this location. The new project consists of replacing the storm line and localized full-depth base repairs. The new line is located in the middle of 6th Avenue, just north of Spruce, and there will be short duration closures on 6th Avenue. The project plan, specifications, and location map were developed by city staff and BG Consultants. The project was advertised for bid on the Bonfire platform, and bids were opened on May 7th. Based on the final bids, Lina Weaver Construction was identified as the lowest qualified bidder. Lina Weaver has completed numerous projects in the city in the past. The City Commission generally awards a contract to the lowest bidder if the bidder is less than the engineer's estimate. And 2 of the 4 bids were less than the engineer's estimate. The contract is for $100,980. The Stormwater Capital Projects Fund, Point Fence projects included $125,000 for the project, and city staff will inspect the project. Staff recommends the City Commission authorize the mayor to sign a construction services contract with Lina Weaver Construction for the 6th Avenue and Spruce Stormwater repair in the amount of $100,980. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions?
We did include a map with the policy report.
When will this one start?
Fairly quickly, actually.
Okay.
Gets worse. Quite a range of bids there.
Yeah, there is, isn't it? All right, well, I'll take a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move that the city commission authorize the mayor to sign the construction services contract with Minor Weaver Construction for the 6th Avenue and Spruce Stormwater Repair in the amount not to exceed $100,980.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Hingala.
Aye.
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 All right, thank you. All right, these are consensus coming up, right? First, consider ordinance to rescind certain special use permits.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, before you this evening for consideration is an ordinance that rescinds certain special use permits. The property owners and/or operators of the special uses have advised staff that they are no longer operating the approved special uses at their respective locations, and as such, the special use permits were not renewed. The following are the special use permits to be rescinded: a child care center at 1205 9th Avenue, a child care center at 1226 Limit Street, a child care center at 3812 Clayton Drive, a residential homestay unit at 723 South 10th Street, and an assisted living adult daycare or adult stay program at 2103 Metropolitan. So tonight, we're seeking consensus to place this on first consideration to begin the process to rescind those special use permits.
No
We all in
problem.
agreement?
Yes.
All right.
They all make sense.
We're all in consensus. All right. The next one is for daycare at 414 Potawatomi.
Yep. I would like to recuse myself from this item due to a conflict of interest with me having ownership on this particular property. I'll be back.
You don't have to go. Yeah. Take the chance.
All right, Kim.
All right, well, good evening again. We have in front of you a special use permit application for a daycare for up to 12 children at 414 Potawatomi Avenue. This is on first consideration. The proposal would allow the daycare to operate Monday through Friday, regular business hours, I believe it is 7 to 5 p.m. Yeah, that's correct. It would be an in-home daycare, and there are some recommended conditions that the Planning Commission supported. Those are listed out here in the staff report, including a minimum of 1,200 square feet of open space, 100% enclosed by a minimum 4-foot-high fence or wall. A copy of the permanent family child care home license must be provided annually upon renewal by the state of Kansas. The operation shall be limited to a maximum of 12 children. All playground equipment shall be within the enclosed area. No additional home occupations may be carried out at the residence, and an annual renewal of the special use permit is required. So staff recommends approval of this item. The Planning Commission did vote to recommend approval unanimously as well, and this was advertised. We did not have any public comment at the meeting other than the applicant themselves.
Okay. Any questions from the commission?
No.
No.
Entertain a motion then. Oh, no, it's not a consensus, yes.
Consensus.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
We all,
It's
okay.
fine.
Yep, we're good. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I ask permission to come back.
You can come on back. I don't think you
Get
need
back to
permission.
work here.
Yeah, you come back.
You come back. All right, this time we'll do staff reports. We'll begin with the fire department. Hello, chief.
We do apologize, these are a little later than they usually are. I want to make it clear that both chiefs got these in on when they were supposed to. We waited till after the state of the city to give them to you this year. So just, that was on me, it was my decision, just want to make that clear. They did get them in on time.
Good job. Golden star.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, appreciate the opportunity to come in and visit a little bit tonight with you. I'm going to kind of go over the 2024 annual report. So we'll just kind of go through it here. And jump past that. just, you know, and I've mentioned this numerous times before, we've got some really great employees here, and I think everybody's aware that if it wasn't for the elected body and the city manager's office supporting us, you know, we wouldn't be able to proceed as like we do. So we've been very blessed over the last 6, 7 years. We, you know, modernize our equipment and stuff, and try to stay up on that. So we pride ourselves in trying to keep the count, the numbers and stuff we need to stay at ISO 2. You know, my God, don't want to drop below that. That helps with the insurance and stuff. Probably the biggest thing this year, we broke ground and started working for new Station 3, and it's starting. You know, I'm starting to enjoy I go by there every day, a couple times a day, and we needed a rain, but it's like it could let up right now a little bit. But you know, they got walls standing in the back. When you drive by, you see the base and stuff, the center block, and probably another week or two, you'll start seeing trusses put on that. But on the back side, the living quarters, all the concrete's poured, and they're actually starting to raise walls and stuff. So if you actually turn on Bilas and go all the way around, you drive up in the parking lot of the apartments back there and see the back side. So anyway, so I'm really enjoying that, watching the progress of that and stuff. And it's, you know, it's overdue, and I appreciate the support in getting to be able to do that too for the guys, getting a modernized station with a little more room and stuff. Appreciate it. So the emergency response activity, and I'd mentioned this once before, looking over the last 4 years, our runs are starting to creep up. You know, we've got 30% increase over the last 4 years. And I remember we used to be 7.9, 8 runs a day. Now it averages, you know, 9.5. So, and that fluctuates, but the average is 9.5. Our trucks here, we got a battalion chief, and then we have 3 engines, pumpers, and 1 Quint or truck. You know, there's 2 different vehicles. And you can see the kind of cost per incident. And now on these numbers here that it shows, a lot of times they're going on the same call, but that unit is going, and that's a call number for them. Station 2 is what we call a double house. That's a 10th and Shawnee. And we have engine 2 and then Quint 2. They run out of that same station. Structure fires, we had, in 2024, we had 36 structure fires. We ran around 127 automobile accidents. Sometimes it requires extrication, cut them out of the car. Sometimes it doesn't. We just help assist with the first aid and stuff. We got called out twice in 2024 to put the boat in the water, in the river. And then rescue calls, just to assist citizens and stuff. We had 12 of those. Total incidents were 3468. And we used to be around 60. Right now, this year we were running about 70% EMS medical call, and that's pretty standard throughout the industry. You know, with it just that's the biggest bulk of everything now, and just seems to be increasing all the time. For you know, I was talking to some chiefs in Kansas City and Independence, and their running volumes are off the chart. You know, just trying to learn how to deal with that. We're not to that point yet. We're doing okay, but it's just a trend. Our stations, we got the 3 stations, and the way the city is divided up in those stations is if we have the city divided into zones. So like we're sitting in zone 2, like 201, 202, it's blocked off. So that would be station 2, and then zone 3 is where station 3 is at, and station 1. So when you looked at just those zones, it kind of gives you a picture of the stations. Station 1's the lowest, 508 calls in that zone, that area, and Station 2's the highest, and then Station 3. Keep in mind that Station 2 is where we have 2 units. And what we do there is we kind of got 10th Street as the dividing line, and anything west of 10th Street, we send the Quint, and then the engine runs everything this side of 10th Street. So we kind of try to divide that up a little bit on that workload as far as the EMS and stuff.
Before you move, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I thought you were moving to the next slide. The number of false alarms, 349, is that what you usually have, somewhere around there?
You know, I have to go back. A lot of it's how they categorize it, and sometimes what that is, it's not like, you know, malicious or anything like that. It may be where they're testing their alarm system or doing work on it and they forget to call, and so we'll respond. Then sometimes we'll get call en route saying, hey, the accidental
Okay,
trip.
okay.
Yeah. Sometimes that, on those.
Okay, and what does good intent mean?
Sometimes people will, there's probably 50 categories in each one of those.
Okay.
Sometimes people will call, they'll smell something, smoke or something, or,
I thought it was a cat in a tree.
I did too.
well, that could be too, but or electrical switch or something kind of spark,
Okay.
and it's nothing, but, so we respond to that to check it
Okay.
out for them, yeah.
Hey, Chief, I'm sorry. I got one quick question for you too. Your numbers on the couple previous slides, talking about you're up 36% yearly, right? So almost 1,000 more incidents
Yeah, since,
compared to 2020. Is there like a primary driver?
a what?
A primary driver for like categorize, incidents like
No,
what's-
EMS
that's
is
huge.
EMS is up. We used to be at 60%, now it's 70%. It just gradually, you're just sliding up a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, I was curious. Thank you.
Yeah. Our response times, average response time, turnout, and what turnout is once a dispatcher, there's call time, dispatcher says 911, what's your emergency? And get the information, then when they hit the tone, that's dispatch time, and then from that tone that we get to time we get on the truck and say responding, that's turnout time. And, our goal is to be within a minute on EMS, and a minute 20 is allowed nationally. That's because you got to put your turnout gear and all your stuff on. And then travel time, and that's an average. Some people look at the 90 percentile, they cut off the top 10. That'll push a little bit higher on the number, but just the average. Sometimes we have a lot quicker, sometimes we got longer ones, but the average has been 3.7 as far as travel time. And I stress, it's not about driving faster, it's about getting on the truck quicker. That's, as far as prevention, some of the things that we do is we go out every year. Right now, we're busy into our inspections. You'll see the trucks out going into the businesses every year, doing inspections. We have companies out there. Last year, it was actually down a little bit. I'm not sure why. Around 535 inspections for the 4 companies, as I call them, the trucks. And then admin, some of the people got there going out and doing stuff. And they also do the follow-up on any type of violations out of the Fire Prevention Bureau. We also inspect the fire hydrants every year. And we work closely with the water department. And we actually maintain them, paint them if they need it. And then we flow 1/3 of the hydrants every year. And, one, it makes sure it works so we can catch an issue, that we can report to them before an emergency where it don't work. And then also sometimes it helps with quality of water too. You get kind of on a dead end main. Sometimes we turn it on, it'd be cloudy for a little bit, so we let it flow till it clears up, and that helps with the quality of water also. So we do that too, just make sure it works. The other thing it does is it actually, especially with a lot of newer employees, it gets them out more familiar with the city. And I recall back in my career, we used to go out and do that, and that meant 2 o'clock in the morning, we get down at a dead-end street, and then the captain says, shoot, we didn't get the hydrant. I thought there was a hydrant here. And I said, there is. There's one down there in them weeds. And it's just, I don't know why that came. It just came because I think I checked it before, and it just in the middle of the night. So it just kind of helps with, where hydrants and stuff are at too. So there's some good things with that. And then we still get calls. We got smoke detectors that we get, and we installed 74 of those last year. Thank you. Mutual aid, we assist other communities, the surrounding areas, and we responded 23 times in 2024 and received 11 times where we called for some help. Also in fire prevention, we did 36 public appearances where we go out and talk to, a lot of time in October is when we get busy, Fire Prevention Month, and go out and talk to the kids and stuff, or any other group that may call and ask us to come out. We had 10 groups come to our fire station, and usually it's preschool and kindergarten come to our station for a day out, and we give them a tour and go over safety things with them. And then we participated in 3 parades. And then we went up, we go out sometimes and we display the flag, the picture with the flag there off our truck is up on posts. We do that every year. They have a big event and we go up there and display the flag for them. They actually have an aerial also, but the thing hasn't worked now. It's been broke down for like 3 years, so we help them.
Mutual aid.
Yeah, we help them out, yeah. Yeah, we have good mutual aid partners, and we's over, actually, we got called from Central, we've been helped with Southern Platte a lot. Southern Platte is Parkville up to this bridge. We've had some really bad accidents over on 45 we respond to, because we get there a lot quicker and start helping. Sometimes we just get the call first, but then we'll call and tell them we're over there, so we go there to help. And actually, a couple of weeks ago, we got a call from Central Platte Fire Protection District, which is right across the river in Platte City, and they come around the 45 and 92, a little area called Beverly right there. They had a big barn on fire, so we
I saw that.
we sent a unit over there to help them, so. So anyway, so we help them and they'd help us. In fact, later, and I've shared it with the manager, Mark has come out with kind of we're very unusual here because we're got the 2 states. And so, and we mutual aid, we have the technical hazmat team, so we go across and, and help them and vice versa. We train together with them. But they've actually come out with a mutual aid agreement for like a bi-state for sharing equipment. So I'll be bringing that forward here in a month or 2 on that, so. Okay, professional development, and one of my captains, Isaiah Maher, he's actually been here a few times in some policy reports before. But he kind of takes care of our training and the data and stuff, and we kind of keep that in categories too. We try to match what the ISO requires, because ISO is focused more on fire. So if we do EMS training, which we do a lot of, they don't count that towards that ISO rating. They don't count technical rescue if we're using ropes and stuff, or car extrication. They strictly fire-related stuff. So we kind of got things in those categories listed here with that. So our numbers are coming up. We're supposed to get, I think you're supposed to have per person, you're supposed to have like 210 hours per year in fire stuff, so. Capital improvements, that was approved in 2024, seems like a long time ago now, but we approved for a new HVAC system, and we actually it hadn't got started yet. They're still waiting on that. It was real difficult to get that air handling, and it still hasn't come in yet, so, but we've got that, the PO and everything ready to go on that. We also, in October, approved the replacement of 33 SCBA's, which were very old, so we've got those, finally got those on board and in service. We replaced the driveway concrete in the rear and the front of Fire Station 1. And we also installed a badge system, security system in the Fire Station 1 and 2. Like I said, the HVAC is still in progress. We've got a 75-foot aerial quint that's been ordered, approved, and then we actually, in a couple of weeks, a couple of us will be going up to the Pierce dealer to do what they call the pre-build on the pumper that we ordered back in 2022.
Wow.
Once you get that kind of with the engineering, once it gets actually on the production line, it don't take them probably 30 days, but it takes all that engineering and stuff beforehand, so we're just gonna go over and fine tune everything. And then we get to the Station 3, and looking forward to that, and I'm still thinking that early next year, maybe break of spring, we'll be able to do an open house and have something out there, so it's gonna be a very nice station, so. And Nancy, I believe once you asked about, maybe it's you'd ask about a drive-through.
Yes.
Yes, and that was kind of the trend, what people do now. And I've told this before, we picked up a lot of ground when that road moved, Limit and that bridge and all, but when we got into it, the floodplain.
Oh, yeah.
That floodplain got us. I mean, so they had to kind of shoehorn in this, but I actually worked at a station, 63rd and Paseo, that it had like two drives. They had like a roundabout. So you would turn in here onto the apron, and then you would be back straight up. So you wouldn't have to get out in the street or have someone blocking traffic.
Right.
And so that's what we're actually going to be doing there.
Good.
Yeah, so we got the roundabout.
Yeah.
And then they'll swing around and then back in. So that's what we did to overcome that obstacle.
Good, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah. And that concludes. Is there any questions?
Any questions?
Any words of wisdom you want to share to the public about fire prevention?
Get the numbers down next year.
It's a lot of times it's people just don't even think about it. Even if you go into a restaurant to eat, and you say, okay, how would you get out of here if something happened? Most people will always go back the way they come in. But if you kind of look around, there'll be maybe an exit right behind you. Just think about it. And people don't always think about it, but I think about it a lot. I tell people when my kids would go over to someone else's house, I'd say, now you check that smoke detector when you get there. Because it's always in your mind. And I've seen some terrible things that a $12 smoke detector would have saved their life. So you can't stress it enough.
It's good, appreciate it.
Well, thank you for all the hard work you do, and congratulations to all your promotions.
Yeah. That's my favorite thing to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're having, all our chief level personnel, other than the one we just promoted, they're all eligible to retire. They don't plan on leaving yet, but and part of the fire service, you can't really, you go to the rookie school and you do the book work, and you go out and practice, but the fire service is a profession where you've got to have somebody who's been there to kind of tell you what to do. You can go take CPR, but if you hadn't done it, but you go on an EMS call and say, okay, get down here, shake and shout. You got to have that, someone to show the way. So that's, when you start losing a lot of senior people, it takes a toll out on the emergency scenes. So.
Well, thank you.
Great,
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chief.
All right. Chief Kitchen's next.
Now for the cool part. It's on here somewhere, right, Sarah?
It is.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Commission. Appreciate the opportunity to come visit with you tonight. Get started here. Every year, for many, many years, the police departments come to the City Commission and we produce an annual report that provides some encapsulation of what happened in the previous year. I say a couple of things the same time. I talk about this every time, but I'll say them again. We collect a ton of data, and by that I mean tons and tons. So I don't put it all in here because it would be a phone book, it'd be really hard to read, and you probably wouldn't be that interested in most of it. But if there happens to be a question that you don't see addressed that you'd like, we could certainly include that. We try and just generally put the information in there people pay the most attention to. And then the other piece that I talk about is that the data is only half of the equation. Is equally important to me about what this data says, about how we're doing, is how people feel about the community. And so that's a little harder to measure, but we spend a lot of time when we engage with the community in various projects, when we're talking to people, get a sense about how they feel as well, because that's equally important. It doesn't matter what this data says. If last year you were the victim of a crime, you don't feel the same. And so I want you to know that we use that as part of the metrics as well, other than just the data. So I'll just kind of begin. Our organizational chart, we have 57 sworn police officer positions with police officers, traffic officers, detectives, pretty standard across the board. Our message, I'm disappointed to report that crime went up in 2024 from the previous year. That's a couple of years in a row. Prior to that, we had 5 or 6 really, really good years of crime coming down. And so it hadn't gotten back to that level, but in the last couple of years, it's gone up. I've looked pretty hard at the data, and I can't really point to one particular specific thing that this particular problem is sort of generally all over the place, but I would share with you, I don't like the word petty crime or minor crime, but the less serious crimes are the ones that have gone up the most. For example, last year in 2024, we didn't have any homicides, and that's the first time we haven't had that experience in quite a while, so I'm very pleased about that. But the overall crime rate did go up. We spend most of our time on similar things, domestic violence, mental illness, drug investigations and those kinds of things. We spend a lot of our time on that. And then our primary issue is recruiting and retention. We currently have 6 openings at the Leavenworth Police Department. We have 3 people in the hiring process that I would anticipate are going to be hired relatively soon. But we also have 2 police officers currently in the background of different agencies looking to leave and accept another position. And so I think we're generally pretty static at about 5 or 6 openings, and that's been pretty consistent with us over the last few years. Okay. One thing I would like to point to is officer longevity. See the blue pie on the top left that represents 19%? That number has gone down, and that's a good thing, because those are officers with 2 years or less, which represents this part of my hair that fell out, okay? That number is going down, so we're having officers stay a little longer, and the longer they stay, the better trained they are, the better experience they have, and the better productivity we get out of them. So that's always our goal, is to get that number down, and so I'm happy about that little bit of progress. On the right represents our dispatchers. Our annual city budget, we include information in there, right at about $10 million for the police department. One of the things we do a lot is community engagement. This is Officer Nickel, who was at Home Depot in the latter part of the summer doing an Identikid, where we take photographs and fingerprints for the parents. And so we try and do a lot of those things, coffee with the cop, all of those things to make sure that we're out there in a non-enforcement role, engaging with the community. Calls for service, strangely, although crime is up a tiny bit, the calls for service are down. And a calls for service means someone calls the police department and asks for help in some manner. There was a crime, they have questions, there was a traffic accident, something like that. So that number there, 19,285, represents this. Every 24 hours, we get called by the community a little more than 50 times. Every day, all year long, 50 times in a 24-hour cycle, or slightly more than that, the community is calling us, asking for some assistance. And so we're busy, okay? Part 1 and Part 2 crimes, so way back in the early 30s, I think it was J. Edgar Hoover himself invented Part 1 and Part 2 crimes. Those are how we all consistently identify crimes all across the country. That way, when we're talking about a theft in Leavenworth, it's the same thing in Orlando, Florida, or Seattle, Washington. So we try and have consistent information, and so there's representations of the numbers. You can see there that the gray number, the Part 2 crimes, those are the slightly less serious crimes. Those are the ones that are up, probably the most significant. Domestic cases, 504 in last year, so a little more than 1.5 times every 24 hours we're out on a domestic violence case. We are not getting any better at that. We just simply cannot crack the code. We're trying everything from more services, mandatory arrests. We're just simply not making much progress in that regard. It's been that way for many, many years. Mental health. Here's where I want to spend a little bit of time talking about how we've done some pretty significant improvement. On the right-hand side, you see that suicide calls, people either overtly or specifically making threats about suicide, mental health calls, okay? On the left-hand side, I've had the opportunity to add the data from our mental health co-responder. This is her activity throughout the year that she's been able to do. And so you saw a call out. So about half the time that the police are out on a suicide call or a mental health crisis, our mental health co-responder is with us and is a tool available if for some reason the police, in uniform with weapons seem to be escalating the situation. We can let our mental health co-worker, who's a civilian, dressed down in casual clothes with the skills to deal with that, and that's been better for us. Gives us an opportunity to de-escalate. If you see on there, she's collaborating. She's making contact herself without waiting. So for example, if an officer is out on some sort of call for service, but there might be a mental health component, they will refer that to her, and the next business day, she's reaching out to that family and saying, hey, the guidance center has these services, and there are these resources available to you that you might not know. And to me, the most valuable part of our position there is that. Most of the time prior to that, we'd go out, we'd handle the crisis, get that done, get it off our plate and be done with it. Now we have someone that can follow up on that, intervene, provide resources, make sure that they know that they're available, and that's been incredibly helpful. So I am hopeful that that will continue. Very valuable, excellent resource that we have, doing an excellent job, and that's some of the information that she has. So a total of about 1,400 times last year, she was helping us with mental health resources, that sort of thing.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah, that is great. Do you think there's a need for an additional position?
Yes, we have plenty of work to do. It's a question of funding, so recall that we fund our portion. This is a shared position from the police department and the guidance center, and we use the opioid settlement funds to pay for $50,000 a year of her salary, and the guidance center makes up the rest of that. But she works at the police department, has an office there, and is, assigned there.
Okay.
So yes, unfortunately, we have more work, but from where we were a year and a half ago, I think till now, is just an incredible amount of effort.
Incredible. Look at it
Much
just go
better.
down, down, down.
Commissioner Martin, specifically, you and I have had some discussions about a particular person that was causing some trouble. Talk about him a little bit, without naming names. She is now checking on him about once or twice a week, knows where he
Really?
is, visiting with him. And we have had contact with him probably 3 times in the last 6 months, which is down considerably. And so it's better. It's not perfect. There's still a little bit of risk, but significantly better.
Well, thank you for that. No, I appreciate that update. That's excellent.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
does she ever get into the position of being a negotiator, a hostage
Yes.
talker?
Yeah, that's part of her skill set is crisis negotiation. I mentioned earlier that if we have a circumstance where someone is really struggling, but not really getting along very well with the police, we can have her visit with and talk with and chat with. And it's worked a few times, but yes. In fact, we also, part of her role is teaching what's known as crisis intervention training, at a 40-hour class for police officers, specifically teaching them about all kinds of things like symptoms of autism and all that. And so she is facilitated that, and we're probably gonna be able to do that twice a year and run all of the Leavenworth police officers through that, and then some outside law enforcement agencies as well.
Great.
So
That's good.
significant improvement in this area, and doing much better.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yep, thank you.
Criminal activity, again, these are all charts and graphs. I can tell you where, when, what time, who the suspect is in any part of the community if you'd like to know. At any time, again, there's lots of data and lots of charts, lots of information, person crimes, property crimes, I can bore you to death and talk about all that if you want, but 10-year trends. We just spend a tremendous amount of our time studying that data to try to help us, make decisions about deploying resources, et cetera. Again, here's the Part 1 crimes. On the left-hand side is the 7 Part 1 crimes that exist. So when I say that, those are the 7 crimes that I'm talking about: murder, rape, robbery, assault, burglary, theft, and auto theft. Okay? Here's the clearance. Just short of half the time, we're able to clear those cases. That means I know who it is, and we've either arrested them or going to seek prosecution on them. Okay, I would share with you that probably 6 times, 2 additional times, we know who it is. We just can't quite prove it and get them in court. But we're that's about national average, maybe a little bit higher than that. Part 2 crimes, here's the Part 2 crimes again, up a little bit and a little bit more significantly in the other areas. And then the clearance rate, about 8 out of the 10 times we're clearing that. That is sometimes associated with the fact that we have seen and arrested a person for a crime, much akin to domestic violence. We make an arrest, and that clears a case if we arrest somebody. That make sense? Okay. And overall, we clear about 65% of the cases that were presented for prosecution. Some of the stuff about the detective division, arrests, a little more than 1,300 arrests last year, 133 kids under the age of 18 we arrested for what we believe to be crime. Here's arrests by area. Don't get hung up on area number 2. Area number 2 is the Justice Center. And so we make quite a few arrests there because people are either in jail already and we have a warrant, or they're at court and they get sent to, that kind of thing. So that's a little bit skewed. Domestic violence, here's some of the stuff by race, by age, by gender. It's sort of all over the place, includes everybody. Narcotics information, I want to talk a little bit about this. You see that we charged 104 people for various criminal charges associated specifically with drugs last year. If you see on the bottom chart there, we're still dealing more with meth than we are with fentanyl and other cases. But the fentanyl cases are a little more complicated, and we are specifically targeting mid-level dealers and not street sales, because that's where we feel like we're going to get the most progress on diminishing that. Talk about fentanyl specifically. Last year in 2024, we responded to 37 overdose calls where a person was unconscious because of use of fentanyl. We had 11 deaths associated with fentanyl. We deployed the Narcan into the patrol units, and we used Narcan 13 times to resuscitate somebody. Those numbers are down from 2023. It was a little higher in 2020. I think it was like 47 and 13, so now it's down a little bit. And so that's not progress. I wouldn't describe it as progress, but the numbers are lower, and we're still working awful hard to target and address fentanyl in Leavenworth. Traffic accidents, we have quite a few traffic accidents. I can tell you, where they are, what's going on there. Number of citations, 2,300. So we're writing about 7 tickets for a variety of things every 24 hours all year long. Okay? We'd like to see that number go higher. We have that broken down by race and gender if people have questions about that. The locations, Walmart, every year continues to be where we have our most trouble at, either 10th and Eisenhower or at the Walmart parking lot. That area right there is our highest traffic crash location, and it's been so for the last several years. There's just a ton of traffic out there, and there's just, some of it's Walmart parking lot where people are packing into cars and stuff like that, but Walmart's our most highest traffic area location where we have most traffic accidents. Okay. DUI-RS, DUI-RS, I got information about that. Professional standards is about police officer behavior. Anytime that there's an allegation of an officer, violating department policy or misbehaving, we conduct an investigation. Last year, we had a total of 4. I'd like to note that 4 of those came internally, which meant that we identified what we think is an issue for an officer that we need to evaluate and, if possible, take correction action. So some of that is done internally. Miraculously, we had no one complain about the officers last year formally in any meaningful way. Also, you see on the left-hand side the results of those. So I gave an officer a disciplinary reminder to behave themselves better on one time last year. PSI, same thing, so use of force. Of those times that we arrested people, 88 times we had to use force on someone. Okay, I'll talk about that a little bit in a minute, just better. Bias-based policing, we had no complaints last year from anyone complaining that the officers took action based on their race. We didn't have any complaints about that. Use of force, so there are the use of force events. Most of the time, at the very most, it is a little bit of muscling techniques, maybe an arm bar, something like that. We tasered a few people. And then anytime on the far right-hand column, anytime an officer displays their weapon at anyone for any reason, they're required to fill out a report. That comes to me for me to review and see, and to make sure that they're acting appropriately. We also review body camera footage and in-car camera footage. We had 1 lethal encounter last year. You might recall the events at 5th and Kiowa. That was investigated by the county attorney and the KBI, and the officer was cleared. She was also cleared internally. It was an appropriate use of force. But the rest of it, you can kind of see. And then the race and gender, anything that we do is broken down in any category about what we're doing with use of force as well. Battery LEO, a few officers got wrinkled a little bit last year. Nothing fancy though. They're all pretty tough. They're fine. The bomb unit, we go out a few times a year on our bomb unit. Hand grenades, homemade pipe bombs, stuff like that, suspicious activity, stuff like that. So we use that service quite a bit.
1.
What was that? I'm sorry, 1?
1.
Yeah, we found 1 last year. The year before that was 8. It was a little rougher last year, 2 years ago. And then I think the chief talked about that. We dispatched a little over 3,300 folks to from the fire department, our dispatchers do that. Okay, the star of the show is animal control. They do an awful lot of work down there. I talked to Les this morning. I said, how we doing, Les? He said, well, sir, we have 49 dogs and 48 kennels. So we're not exactly putting puppies in the filing cabinet or anything like that, but we're pretty full and have been, but they're doing a great job. And so as you can see, there was just shy of 1,000 animals in our custody in 2024, and we euthanized 30 of them, which is an incredibly low number. Almost all of those were associated with dangerous behavior because they bit somebody, or they got critically injured, hit by a car, or had a critical illness. And so we have not yet, knock on wood, had to make any decisions about euthanizing animals because of space, although we work awful hard to try not to do that. You can see here that we adopted out a bunch of animals. We transfer animals to rescues all the time, Kitty City, that sort of thing. And so we're working awful hard down at Animal Control to do a great job. Here's those numbers on that. Bike cases, they went up a little bit, 73 bike cases. That's a little bit worrisome, but doing okay in that. And then here's some stuff about enforcement. So that's generally it about the police department. Again, we have a lot of information. If there's something in there that you didn't see that you'd like us to think about, I'll be glad to do that. Here's one thing that the last piece, there's no slide in there. I get asked a lot about the homeless population in Leavenworth. okay? And I've talked to Miranda about that. We had not, prior to this year, had accurate data about how often the police department are dealing with the homeless population. And so starting in January, I started collecting. I asked the officers, every time you have contact with someone that identifies themselves as homeless for some police call, I need to know that. And so from January 1st until May 15th of this year, we had 65 calls for service that were specific to a person who identified themselves as homeless. And so we know names, we know dates of birth, and we know the reason. Most of it's disturbances, intoxication, a mental health call. So I'm tracking all of that very specifically so that I have good information to report. We just started that at the first of the year.
No, that's great.
But that gives us some sense. In 120 days so far of the year, we've done 65, so about once every other day, we're dealing with someone that is part of the homeless community. But I would just share with you, more than half of those are the same person, right? It's not like we have that many. It's generally speaking the same group of folks that we're dealing with sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. But I'll have a much better assessment of that next year and can comment about that if you have questions. Or if, over the course somebody has questions, I can help you answer that a little bit more accurately. And then I'm sharing that information with Miranda, so she has it as well. So we're working collaboratively on that.
Great.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for that.
I have a question.
Okay.
State of Kansas voted to make fireworks legal all year round, the sales of fireworks. And so I've been getting a lot of questions like, oh, is Leavenworth going to make fireworks legal? And I know that the city voted to make them not legal. Is there anything that you, and then we all probably get complaints about people shooting fireworks. What's your stance on that? We don't write tickets. What do we do for that?
We do our best.
We do our best, okay.
I think it's an excellent question for the fire chief, ma'am.
But the police get called, right? Or we get
Right.
called. So
Yeah, they do
what
too.
should we do?
Yeah.
What should we do in this? Because 4th of July is coming up.
That is entirely a community question, Madam Mayor,
Okay.
it really is. Whether I have a personal stance about it or not,
Sure,
from the
right.
police department's perspective, yes, ma'am, we get a lot of calls, and by a lot, I mean a lot.
I know.
Way more than we can deal with, right? So traditionally, what we've tried to do is we warn them first, we'll go out. If we have time to answer the call, some we don't because we just don't have time. If we do, we go out and we talk to them, hey, we'd like to remind you that fireworks are illegal. Please stop doing that. If we have to go back, typically we will confiscate them, right? And just keep them and destroy them. The effort is not to cite anybody on someone that's repetitive, that just is not gonna follow the rules, and we've been warned. We'll write the occasional ticket. We don't do that very often. But just to be perfectly honest with you, we just can't keep up with it.
Right.
We get July 1st to July 5th, 250 calls. And we just can't keep up with it. Whether or not you want to legalize it or not legalize it is a question you're going to get 10 people, 5 yes and 5 no's in my experience. But by recollection, that's what happened, is that a young person, I think, passed away from a fireworks accident. There was quite a bit of community outrage about that. They put it on the ballot.
Fires too, there were
Right.
fires.
Well,
Fires are-
No, my question is that's for the people to decide if they want it or not. But
Yeah,
I'm just like, what can I tell people when we get these, like 250 calls? There's fireworks.
Right.
Should they call the police?
They certainly can. We can encourage them to do that. It's just making sure that they understand what the expectations are, is that there are so many of them, we can't keep up. And so it really would be writing a ticket 1 every 10 violations. I don't know if that's necessarily a good resolution or is gonna necessarily deter that. People are interested in fireworks, are going to shoot them.
Right.
Question about how we would deal with that.
And in my neighborhood, there are a lot of military.
Right.
And they see somebody else shooting and they think it's okay, and I've had discussions with people in the neighborhood saying, this, and they didn't know that. They
Right.
just assumed since their neighbor was shooting it, who was
Sure.
a local person, that
Right.
it was okay for everybody. So I don't know if there's something we could spread the word
I'm just
throughout
prepared.
the military
I'm
as
just
well. But
trying to get just figure
new
out.
people at
I
hand.
don't think there's gonna be a right answer. 'Cause
Yeah, I know,
there's
there's-
conflict, they have a firework display on Fort Leavenworth.
Right, well, it's kind of like the snow removal,
It's
right?
great.
Like by the time we cite them for not shoveling their sidewalks, the snow's melted.
It's an issue that, and people find tricky ways to avoid, they'll light off the firework and then run back in the house or whatever so that nobody knows who did it.
Oh, it sounds like from experience, Scott.
So I came from, remember, I worked from another military community, and so we had the exact same problem there. So,
Right, you did.
and it was the same issue, it was illegal, but people shot them off anyways. So, and you certainly don't, I don't think the message is we can't handle all the calls, because that just, I think, would encourage people to be like, well, they're not coming anyway, so I'm gonna light them off. But I think you need to be careful what you say in that regard. I think the most important thing is consistent messaging, and really the question, I mean, not to do this to you, but the question should be reflected back at the five of you on how you want us to enforce it. And what you want us to do about it. Is our enforcement level good enough? If it's not, we will need to dedicate more resources to it, obviously to solve the issue, or not solve it, but to work on the issue. But if you guys are kind of okay with the status quo of, it's illegal, shoot them off at your own risk. If you hurt yourself or you catch your neighbor's house on fire, that's a crime. Then.
No, we have an ordinance. I think we should put the word out ahead of time.
Yep.
Better maybe, so more people know, because if they don't know, if they're new to town,
Sure.
they don't know, and they're just.
And we will be glad to do that, just again, alerting you all that, as you probably already know, that will set off a firestorm and you will get the calls. So, as long as you're okay with that, of course, I believe in being transparent and upfront with the community and sharing that information. But I also know, especially when it comes to something like fireworks, you guys are gonna hear a lot of it. So,
Yeah.
don't wanna overburden any of you all, of course, so.
Yeah. No, I'm fine, don't worry about me.
Yeah, I just want to have an answer, because I've been getting a lot of calls because they made it legal, and so they assume, oh, it's legal in the state, is it? No, each city has their own ordinance, so.
That was for sale, wasn't it? For sale?
For sale, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I had you here, it's coming up, I had to ask.
Sure, yeah, it is coming up.
Chief,
Quickly.
Yes, sir.
do you have officers that work every once in a while, more in a training kind of mode with other police departments horizontally and vertically?
Yes, frequently we do. We occasionally work with the Kansas Police Department in particular. Our agencies have mutual aid with respect to the SWAT team, and so if we need their support, that's who we call first and vice versa. And so we work a lot with them. Our officers on the bomb team work collaboratively. They're in a regional sort of component, so they train together as well. But yes is the answer. At the CIT training I talked about earlier, there were probably 12 to 15 different agencies that were represented in that. And so yes is the answer to that question. Off the top of my head, those are some examples. But yeah, we work frequently with them because sometimes we don't have enough and sometimes they don't have enough, and so we need to be on the same page when we're working. But yeah, we do that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, let's move to consent agenda.
All right, Madam Mayor, I do move to approve the claims for May 9th, 2025 through May 22nd, 2025 in the amount of $1,232,457.56. Net amount for payroll number 10, effective May 16th, 2025 in the amount of $428,177.76. Includes police and fire pension in the amount of $7,753.58.
Second.
All right, are we going voting with Commissioner Hengler?
Aye.
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 All right, at this time, I'm going to make a motion.
We go with.
Wait, we're going to go around the room, aren't we? Okay, Scott, you have anything?
Only thing I have is real quick, this was briefly mentioned in my Friday report to you all, but we went ahead and pulled the trigger. We have officially changed our website domain name to a .gov. The federal government is basically requiring this to all government agencies over time to do this. Not to mention, it actually does assist us in things like Google searches, and also provides a little bit of assistance there. We will be slowly transitioning to advertising the new domain. Over the next few years, though, the original lvks.org will just automatically bounce you to the new one. So we don't need to have it automatically memorized, and if somebody types in the old one, it'll still work for many, many years probably.
Okay.
But just wanted you all to know, officially, we will start transitioning to that new domain name, which I think is leavenworthks.gov?
Yes.
Yep,
Oh,
so.
it's no longer even First City.
So the federal government does not allow us to, you have to have your actual name in the name.
Okay.
They wouldn't allow, we tried firstcity.gov, we tried firstcityks.gov, they wouldn't let us do it.
So what is it now?
It's leavenworthks.gov.
Oh, okay.
And so the counties is leavenworthcounty.gov, I believe, so, should be good enough to identify the two different, but yeah. We
Okay.
had quite a bit of internal conversation about what to pick, and so, unfortunately, we were tied by what we could use. But that's the only thing I had, was just that official update. Moving forward, that's what we are, but again, the old domain will work for a while, so.
Commissioner Martin, you have anything?
No, nothing here. Thank you.
No, I don't have anything. Have a good week.
No. Commissioner Hingle and I were at the National Cemetery yesterday. We presented a wreath. It was a beautiful ceremony, and cold day, but beautiful ceremony. And then today we met with members of the Leavenworth Main Street and some downtown business owners to talk about our planters. So changes will be coming soon. You'll see kind of an adopt program of the planters, so making downtown look pretty. Anything for you?
God bless, have a great week, and our pool's gonna be open.
Yeah, Thursday, I think, is Steve still here? Thursday?
Pool?
Yes, weather permitting.
Gonna have some fun in the sun. Have a great week.
Yeah.
Commissioner
That'd be
Hingle?
great. God bless everybody. Thank you, all of you people here that have sat through and watched the whole thing to see how it's all done. And all you people out there, come on down and join them.
Come on
See how the
down.
sausage is made.
What is
It's
that
your
for
city.
opinions?
What?
She said, what if they're vegetarian?
Vegetarian, yeah.
Okay, at this point, we are going to go into executive session, so I'm going to make a motion to move the, how much time do we need?
I'd say 30 minutes.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we move to the city commission recess and executive session for 30 minutes for the purpose of discussing zoning matters in consultation with the attorney, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2. The city commission, city manager, city attorney will be present. The open meeting will resume in the city commission chambers at 7:45, 7:47?
7:47.
7:47. Just need a second.
Will there,
Second.
What's
will
wrong?
there be any other business after that?
No.
No, we do not expect a public vote either.
Okay, so motion's been made second. Begin voting with Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
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 All right. We'll be back.
Conversation.
make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor, second, okay. Griff?
Aye.
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 Aye, all right, we're out of here. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's so fast.
Do I have lots of stuff to sign?